What up, guys? Welcome to Base Damage, and we are bringing to you another deck profile. Once again, I realize I have a lot of Bang Dream already on this channel, but there's going to be even more because I have so many fun ideas, and it's just a lot of fun to experiment with the Bang Dream sets. And we're getting another one. Another one got announced, so this is one of many. I'm just saying, I'm going ham in this into this set. So yeah, with that, let's get right into this. Now, this deck, obviously you can see by the title, is called the Arisa Standby Wall. This deck is actually very familiar to another deck that I was working on involving... basically, I very much enjoy the standby mechanic. And Bang Dream was the first standby mechanic set, or having a set that had it. And it's very fun to be able to mess with. Hell, they even had some cards that specifically work with the standby trigger, or as far as like climax combos, even a brainstormer that you could mill 5. It milled 5 cards for the brainstorm effect, but specifically you had to mill either that brainstorm called We Are Poppin' Party, or a particularly other climax. I just can't remember the name of it right now. But I very much enjoy messing with the various standby setups, and this is one of them. I feel like standby decks have a different play style, so it's really fun. But this is red-blue. As you can see, mostly red, but that's because there's a lot of just really good red cards. This is also kind of actually, I guess you could say a band-themed deck, because it's... if I'm double-checking, going through, I have the deck in my hands as I'm looking through these cards. It is all Poppin' Party. So the entire deck is nothing but Poppin' Party. So, Kasumi, Rimi, Tai, Saya, and Arisa. So the main one this is being focused around is Arisa. So let's get right into this. And it's, like I said, it's going to be very similar to another deck that I've already posted up a deck profile for, with a couple changes here and there as far as things that I felt was a little bit more necessary to change around. But yeah, other than, like, if you want to go check out that deck as well, it was based around the level 3 Tai, the climax combo to, like, when the climax was played you could heal, as well as she had a good effect for if she was in the center stage and damage you took was not canceled, you could look at the top card of your deck and either leave it on top of the deck, or I think put it in the waiting room. I just can't remember the exact effect off the top of my head right now because it's been a long day. But let's get right into this. First off, we have Live House at Sunset. Rimi is a 002K. 2 effects. When she's placed on stage from your hand, choose one of your other music characters. That character gets 1,000 power for the turn. Really good. But this card synergizes very well with the standby card, because when you play the standby, you get to summon... When you play the climax, you get to summon a character. I'll get to that in a little bit and explain that once we get out of level 0, actually, because I realize I need to explain the mechanic for it. But it says her second effect is, when a climax is put on your climax area, you can return this card to your hand. If you do, choose one of your characters, and that character gets 2,000 power until the end of the turn. So she synergizes well with that, because she bounces back to your hand, leaving an open spot for you to summon a character with the standby effect. So with that, actually, let's go ahead right now into the standby. The standby effect, the standby for this is We Are Poppin' Party, and it gives no buffs. The standby card for newbies gives no buffs whatsoever, but it has 1 crit right here and has the symbol. It almost looks like the GameStop symbol. But it says, when this card is placed on your climax area from your hand, you can perform the trigger effect. Basically, the same exact effect occurs whether you are playing it during your climax phase or whether you trigger it off of an attack. But it says, when this card triggers, you may choose a character with a level equal to or less than your level, +1 in your waiting room, put it on any position of your stage as rested. Now what this translates to is you basically can summon a character from the waiting room with a level that is currently higher than your level, or less. I realized I basically just kind of I read it again, but a little bit different wording. So if you're at level 0 and you play this climax, you can summon a level 1, or you can summon a level 0. Repeat process. At level 1, you can summon level 2s, and at level 2, you can summon level 3s. Or less. So you can summon anything that you need to, but more often than not, you want to go for those higher level characters. So that's kind of what you focus on, is being able to play bigger characters and utilize those bigger bodies on your next turn. So that's basically what the standby effect is based around. So the Remy combos very well with that, because more often than not, if you don't have something that can bounce back, you got to summon over top of like a back row or whatever the hell, because the character comes in rested, so you can't attack with it. But 3 copies of her. Next, we have 3 copies of Twinkle Star Kasumi, which actually works really well because she only can grab back any of the Pop and Party Girls. Basically, when this card is put into your waiting room from the stage, you can pay the cost, which is 1 stock, and putting the top card of your deck into your clock. Really simple to do. If you do choose a character with any of the Pop and Party Girls, just label off their name: Kasumi, Tai, Remy, Sai, or Arisa, in your waiting room, and return it to your hand. So, able to salvage back some stuff is really good. Sorry, stifling a sneeze there. Next is 2 copies of... I feel that this card is a staple for most decks, unless you're sticking to like a particular theme as far as like band theme. Even then, I feel like you could probably splash a couple copies of this, like the level 0 Kokoro from Girls Band Party. I feel like this is one of those staple cards. It's just really good. It's uncommon, so it's really good. 2 effects. Both are when it's on play, but you can choose the order. First effect is when this card is placed on stage from your hand, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your waiting room. This isn't optional. You have to do this regardless of the order that you choose. If there's a climax amongst those cards, choose one of your characters. That character gets 1,500 power until end of turn. This is really useful for being able to fuel just a little bit more for the standby, or even for her second effect, which reads as such. When this card is placed on stage from your hand, you can pay the cost, 1 stock and discarding 1 card. If you do choose a music character in your waiting room, return it to your hand, choose one of your other music characters, and that character gets plus 1,000 power until end of turn. So because she's just grabs back music, she can work with any of the other characters in the set, because I believe everything except there's like an Asuka that doesn't... I don't remember if she has music, but I believe every girl in the set has music, so anything worth a damn, put it that way. Oh, sorry to any Asuka fans out there. But 2 copies of her I feel is definitely necessary. We have 2 copies of Way Home Arisa. She is the brainstormer of the deck. Also really good to have brainstormers that will be able to fuel your standby effects, because you want to be able to get cards into your waiting room and summon it with the standby. So first effect is at the beginning of your climax phase, you may put the top card of your deck into your waiting room. If that card is a climax, I can read. All of your characters get plus 500 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So a little bitty buff there. It's whatever. The mill kind of also helps as far as like an additional little thing. So it's kind of whatever. But her brainstorm effect is pay 1, tap 2 characters, reveal 4 cards from the top of your deck, put them into your waiting room. For each climax revealed, search your deck for up to 1 music character, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And to go ahead and bring up one thing I'm fairly certain someone's going to point out, there is a level 0 Remy brainstormer from the Girls Band Party set. I do have 2 copies of that card, but I wanted to use this one instead, and I found this to be a bit more handy. I already have cards, between cards that I could summon with the standby, between this being able to salvage on play, between this being able to salvage on death, between running the level 1 something in the warehouse event, and there's another card, one of the cards that combos with that event. There's a lot of cards I have that can get back cards from the waiting room. I don't have anything else that can really search. I don't really have a whole bunch of stuff in here that can search the deck. So while that Remy has a better first effect than this Arisa, I will completely admit that the first effect of that Remy is way better. And even as the salvage thing, since you're already feeling a whole bunch of cards, trying to get cards into your waiting room to salvage back anyway, or summon with a standby, that would seem like the more logical thing, but I realized there wasn't any deck searching in this. And I wanted to do that for a little bit of compression, as well as just sometimes you're not going to have all the targets that you want in your waiting room, because the milling you're not always guaranteed to get what you want at any given time. So if you want to get something very specific, I feel these are the better brainstormers for that. But that Remy brainstormer is freaking amazing, and no denying it's probably the better one. I just wanted to use this one instead. It turned out really well. I actually really like it. This next card, Lunch Break Tie. Oh my goodness, I have loved using this card. So 00500, 500 assists to all your characters in front of her. Very basic thing, but the second effect is where this card shines, and that is when another of your characters is put into your waiting room from the stage. If this card is in the backstage, you can pay the cost, which is putting this card into your waiting room. If you do, return that character to its previous stage position as rested. Basically saying she can sack herself to encore back a character. So you don't have to pay 3 stock, you don't have to do clock encore, character encore, whatever. But she's really useful if with the bigger, you're going to summon up bigger characters a lot with standby, and they're going to be very, very powerful. If your opponent's able to get over those, you don't want to have to pay a whole bunch of stock to save those characters more often than not. And she is a very, very cheap alternative to be able to do that, or even save just any important cards that you feel are necessary to hold on to. A little bit of type buff is good too. But more often than not, even with like the Something in the Warehouse event, I'll get this card back a whole bunch. Like 3 copies of this card, it shows up a decent bit, and I will absolutely use it to my advantage to be able to save my bigger characters. So very good there, and has been very, very useful to use. So, and then another really powerful staple, which I'm actually wanting to experiment with in a non-pop and party based deck. There's a Mill Runner from Pastel Palettes that I'm actually going to be testing out a good bit. But this is Starbeat Remy Ushigome, 002K, 2K, 2000 power. I can talk, I swear. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can move this to an open position of your center stage. Free runners from the trial deck. Freaking amazing. Get the trial. That is it for level 0s. We have... wow, I'm a little light here. 2, 4, 6, 8. No, 2, 4, 6, 10. Oh, 16. Okay, I was like, why am I only counting 13? I can math too. Okay, so first off, we have Happy Halloween Kasumi, 2 copies of. This is the other card that combos with the Something in the Warehouse event. First off, when this card is played on stage from your hand, you can get one of the Something in the Warehouse events in your waiting room, put it face down underneath this card as a marker. While there is a marker under her, she gets 3,500 power and the ability that if she's in the center stage, a middle position of the center stage, and her battle opponent becomes reversed, you can pay 1 stock, deal yourself a damage from the top of the deck, and if you do, you can salvage back 1 character from your waiting room. So more salvaging, really good. I feel like only 2 copies of this is necessary because you don't get the salvage back effect unless she's in the middle position of the center stage. So, so whatever. Then 3 copies. This is your main like target you want to summon when you're if you are trying to play the standby climax at level 0. You're going to want to play this. You're going to want to try to grab back this as much as possible. This is a 116K Midsummer Beachside Saya and Remy. She has an experience effect if the total level of the cards in your level is 2 or higher. This card gets plus 1,500 power and character encore. So she can become a 75, and it's real easy to just take one of your extra like level 3s or whatever and just put it into your level and really not worry about it. So 3 copies of that, and then 3 copies of this Kasumi right here. I'm really trying to stifle back a sneeze. I greatly apologize. So 1045 against 500 power for each of your other music characters. It's a Theme Park Fun Kasumi Toyama. 3 copies of that. So only 8 level 1s, and I usually heavier on level 1 count, but this is it's kind of the way that the deck setup has to go for a lot of standby decks, in my personal opinion. Next is getting to the level 2s. We have Explosive Summer, Tai and Arisa and Kasumi. When this card becomes reversed, if the level of the battle opponent is higher than your opponent's level, you can put that character on the bottom of your opponent's deck. So it is an anti-change reverser, very powerful. Your main target that you are going to want to try to summon as much as possible, when you hit level 1 and you can play a standby, this is what you want to try to summon. So it's a 2/2, has 2 effects. We don't use the first effect because I don't run the card that combos with that. But she's a 2/2, 6,500, 2 soul. That is very, very specific to state there that she has 2 soul. But when she's placed on this stage from your hand, you may choose one of your cards named Bewitching Omelet Arisa, which is like a 003k vanilla, and put it into your waiting room. And if you do, you may play this card with 0 cost. The 0 cost thing is very nice. It's very, very nice. Don't get me wrong. But I'd rather not when I'm more than likely going to summon this off the standby effect instead of having to just waste extra cards. Because by the time you hit level 1, if the level 0 Arisa that it's referencing to isn't already dead, you're just wasting sacking characters, in my personal opinion, when it's much easier to just summon this with standby. Second effect is this card gets 1,000 power for each of your other music characters. So this can be a 10-5 with a full field. That's freaking amazing to be able to summon that off of a standby and the next turn just straight up have a 10-5 2 soul. That's bigger than most regular level 3s. That's really good, and it's very powerful to have. Assuming that you have that and like this tieback row, she's an 11,000, and if she happens to die, sack off the tie and summon her and keep her on the field. It's really good. So 3 copies of that. I almost want to bump it up to 4. I did run 4 for a little bit test playing wise, but it just worked out better putting it at 3. This next one's actually a promo, but it just applies to the entire set. There's a 2/1 2000, 2,500 backup for 1 stock. Winter Uniform Pop and Party. When you use this card's backup, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a music character, put it into your hand, choose a card in your hand, and put it into your waiting room. So that is just, it's similar to the Leafa from SAO. As a level 2 Leafa, pretty much has the same effect. Now, the bread and butter of the deck. Oh, these level 3s are so fun. So first off, we have, for the level 3s, also for level 2s, we have 5 level 2s. But we technically have more level 2s than that, because even though you couldn't summon them with a standby at level 1, there are quite a few cards in here that have early play conditions, which are just amazing. So, first one being is Happy Christmas Saya. This is a 3/2 9k 2 soul. If the number of music characters you have is 4 or more, this card gets -1 level in your hand. So really easy early play, absolutely phenomenal. Just summoning condition is beautiful. If the number of other music characters you have is 2 or more, she gets 1,000 power. She's a 10k, basically, just always. When this card is placed on stage from your hand, you may put the top card of your clock in your waiting room. So even if they anti-change this, she's done her job by healing you 1. 2 copies of that, absolutely phenomenal. This card's fun as hell, too. It's a 3/2, is Under the Full Moon, Kasumi and Rimi is a 3/2, 9k 2 soul. If all of your characters are music, she gets 2,000 power. So she's an 11k constant, just straight up. When this card is placed on stage from your hand or by a change effect, there's a level 2 that can change into her. You can pay the cost, which is discarding 1 card, put the top card of your clock into your stock. So it's another healer that can get around heal tax and net you some more stock to be able to play bigger cards. At the beginning of your opponent's climax, or her third skill, beginning of your opponent's attack phase, not climax phase, what the fuck am I reading? You may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, choose one of your music characters and this card, exchange them as standing. This is really useful if you know your opponent's going to try to get over like a level 1 or a level 2, whatever that you have, that you know, oh, I know that you're going to be able to reverse this. This is really easy to be able to go standby, summon this back row, and then your opponent's like, oh, I'm going to go kill this little level 1 you have. No, pay 1 stock, put this in front of your character, and more than likely survive, being an 11k wall. Thus forth, saving your character, potentially denying your opponent some on-reverse advantage, and it's just really awesome in that regard. And shoot, you could just swap them back again the next turn and do the same shenanigans over and over again. Eventually, your opponent will learn. But it also can swap itself out. Like if you summon it backstage, you could swap with a character in the front stage. But if it's in the front stage, you also can swap it with a card in the backstage, which is actually something I'm going to point out in just a second here. Obviously not this next one, but this is a very good card. Before I get into these next 2, this Arisa, I actually found this to be way more useful than the swimsuit Arisa. This is still a very good card, don't get me wrong, but I almost feel like I should take out this and put in one more copy of this Arisa. Just saying. So first off is this Arisa. She has 3 effects. The third one I'm not even going to worry about because it involves a climax combo that we do not run in here. So I'm only going to list the first 2 effects. 3-2, 75, 2 soul. Straight up, her first effect is all of your other music characters get 1500 power. Global 1500, freaking amazing. This is very fun at level 2 or even at level 3. If you play standby, to summon her back row and just give everybody an even bigger buff, which is just great. Considering how much you already buff off of your other level 3 Arisas, it's dumb. Wait, this is very dumb. This is another reason why I wanted another copy of her. And then her second effect, when this card is placed on stage from your hand, you can rest one of your standing characters. You can just rest her. And if you do, your opponent chooses a climax in their waiting room. Return all cards in your opponent's waiting room except that card into your opponent's deck, and your opponent shuffles his or her deck. It's an anti-compression effect. Very cheap anti-compression effect, might I add. For just summoning it and tapping her. You can... Sure, if you see that your opponent is... about to refresh or whatever, or even just very compressed, you can put a lot of cards back into their deck to potentially have a lot of damage stick. So she's very useful. I would probably bump her back up to 2, but I needed another copy of her. The Swimsuit Arisa, 1 copy of, is a 3-2, 9k, 2 soul. She gets 500 power for each of your other music characters. Still really good. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you can heal 1. And during this card's battle, when the damage you received is not cancelled, you can pay 2 stock and discard 1 card. If you do, deal the same damage to your opponent. It is very useful with this card. I will go ahead and put in here. If your opponent's trying to poke for like a exact amount of damage or a certain amount, you can swap her, or use the Rimi and Kasumi level 3 right here to swap with her to put her in front of a specific character. If you're wanting to try to block a particular amount of damage or whatever. It's really good in that regard. And then the core of the deck, outside of the standby, is this level 3 Arisa. 4 copies of. Straight up done. Is Cute Friends Arisa Ichigaya. This is also a very cheap level 3 to base around for a standby deck. This is like a 50 cent to $1 card for being like a rare. So 3-2, 95. If the number of climaxes in your waiting room is 2 or less, this card gets -1 level in your hand. Just pretty friggin' awesome. So, once again, another really easy early play, especially if you've just refreshed. Done. So, second ability is if this card is in your center stage, all of your music characters get 1500 power. That includes herself. As long as she's in center stage, she's an 11k by her own effect, straight up. Summon multiples of her, and that's where the wall of the title of the deck comes in, because you want to summon as many of these as possible for her third ability. When this card attacks, if a card named under the Blossoming Sakura is in your climax area, and the number of your other music characters you have is 4 or more, until the end of your opponent's next turn, this gets plus 1000 power and the following ability. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, choose up to 2 of your opponent's characters, and those characters get -1 soul until end of turn. What this essentially, this negative soul shenanigans is really, really useful to trying to keep yourself alive at level 3 as long as possible. Especially with as big as these characters are going to get. Okay, let's do the math. 3 of these Arisas on the field. You're getting plus 4,500 across the board because of their effects, which is going to put them at 1,400 power each. If you've somehow standbyed or summoned this Arisa, back row, that's another 1,500. You're looking at 15,500 for each of these level 3s. That's not going to be the easiest number to get over. It's not impossible. I will completely and totally admit that it is not impossible to get over. But it ain't easy in every single deck to be able to do that. So some decks just really can't compete with that as far as making that. So a lot of times your opponent will resort to throwing down 3 characters and dropping a fucking climax and just suiciding with all their characters, and that's all they'll do. So I know, I ran Titans, believe me. So the climax combo is very useful because your opponent's probably going to end up doing that, especially after the first time you drop these and use and swing with them. They're also count in the 1,000 from their climax combo. You're like 16,500. if you have all of those on the field. Even if you don't have this Arisa, that's 15,000 across the board. You can give negative soul off of the climax combo. You have to, with 3, you can give basically you have to choose different characters with each of them. Just layer it in such a way that each of your opponent's characters are sitting with -2 soul. So if they just drop like, 3 costless level 0 or level 1 characters and a 1k1, they're only going to be swinging for 2 each. So unless they trigger any crits, more than likely they're going to be hitting you for 0 damage. And seem to happen more often than not with this deck, or at least playing against certain decks. There still was, the occasional crit and whatnot, but sometimes it really just didn't matter. But like I said, that's the core of the deck, being able to summon as many of these as possible, get your negative soul shenanigans off, as well as just making a wall that your opponent's like, well, shit, who the fuck are you, Donald Trump? Haha, political jokes. And now, getting to the end of it, because I realize I've been talking for a whole bunch. The 3 events is Something in the Warehouse is a 1/0 red event. You flip over 3 cards from the top of your deck, put them into your waiting room, choose a level X or lower character in your waiting room with music or Asuka in card name, return it to your hand. X is equal to the number of music or Asuka in its card revealed among those cards. So, no Asuka's in the deck, so mill 3 music characters. You could salvage back a level 3 or lower from your waiting room. If you only mill 1 music character, you can grab back a level 1 or lower. So that basically also means all of your level 0s are open whenever. That's one reason I liked grabbing the ties. You can always get those no matter what you mill. The Drop Searcher Saya, stuff like that. It's just really good. 3 copies of that. And then obviously the climax is 4 copies of the Standby and 4 copies of the Under the Blossoming Sakura, which is a 1k1 trigger that lets you get back climaxes. I've actually very much enjoyed using this trigger with any Standby deck to try to get back the Standby effect climaxes over and over and over, which is just really, really freaking fun. I have a couple other deck ideas involving Standby that aren't going to utilize blue. There's like one other that's red-blue. There's a red-green that I want to do, and there's like one other setup that I would like to try with Standby. I won't actually give the color away for that. But yeah, no, this is very fun. Very fun to do this. I'm going to be working on another deck shortly here. Now that I've made the deck profile for this, I can go ahead and be working on the next one. But this deck was very, very fun. The whole mono poppin' party is pretty cool. Wasn't the initial intention, but it just kind of went with that, so I'm like, screw it, I'll stick with the theme. Mostly because from the other deck that I will put a link for the deck profile, other deck that I'm talking about in the description, so you can see it's not much that I had to change out. Most of the big one was changing out like the level 3 ties for these level 3 Arisas and the climaxes. I still did do a couple other tweaks here and there, but for the most part, it's not that much different. I think probably the biggest one was like the level 1 Kasumi. I had a level 1 tie that was the same effect of 500 for each of your other music characters. But other than that, it's not that much different. So, but with that, I'm going to be signing off for now. Thank you all very much for watching. Please subscribe if you want. If not, hey, just thanks for stopping by to check out the deck profile. I know it ran a little bit long. I apologize for the lengthy rant there, but I do like to explain my reasonings behind particular card usage or experience with running said cards. And I really enjoy these Standby setups. If nobody's ever tried it, I highly recommend it. There's another budget Standby deck I will put a link to in the description. It's just really fun. It's sort of the first Standby deck I actually attempted to run with Bang Dream, and I will put the link for that in the description as well. Thank y'all very much, and we will see y'all on the flip side. Peace out for now.